Armand was a young man from a well-known family. He had everything that a person could wish for. His house was large and beautiful, filled with expensive furniture and sparkling chandeliers. But Armand had learned early that money alone could not make a person happy. Despite his wealth, he valued honesty, kindness, and simple happiness more than anything else. His parents had raised him to understand the importance of character and to always look beyond appearances. Recently, Armand had become engaged to a woman named Zara. On the surface, Zara was everything one could imagine in a perfect fiancée. She came from a respected family, dressed elegantly, and knew how to charm people with her smile and polite words. Everyone who met her admired her beauty and grace. However, Armand's family had begun to notice small things about Zara that made them worried. While she was polite, she also seemed concerned mostly with appearances and social status. She laughed too loudly at compliments, complained quietly about small inconveniences, and seemed uncomfortable around ordinary people. Armand had noticed some of these things too, but he was in love and wanted to believe the best in her. Still, his parents, who had seen life and people more clearly, suggested he observe her behavior carefully before the wedding. They wanted to make sure that their family's happiness was not ruined by a woman who could not appreciate the simple, meaningful things in life. Meanwhile, in Armand's household, there was a maid named Aisha. Aisha had been with the family for several years, but she was not just any maid. She was kind, intelligent, and always had a gentle way of helping others. She did her work without complaints, always thoughtful and careful, making sure that everyone in the house felt comfortable. Unlike Zara, Aisha had never tried to impress anyone with her appearance or wealth. She dressed simply and acted with humility, but her actions spoke louder than words. People who spent time with her could feel her goodness immediately. Aisha worked quietly in the background. She cleaned the house, helped in the kitchen, and often noticed things that others did not. For instance, she remembered birthdays of the family members, made sure the house had a pleasant atmosphere, and even helped solve small disagreements with her calm advice. She had a way of making everyone feel cared for, even though she never asked for recognition. Armand often noticed her subtle actions, though he did not yet realize how important she would become in his life. One afternoon, Armand returned home from a business trip. He was tired but happy to see his family. Zara had been visiting and was in the house, dressed in a beautiful outfit that sparkled in the afternoon sunlight. She greeted him with a smile that seemed perfect, and he felt a warmth in his heart. However, Armand's mother, who had always been very observant, watched quietly from a distance. She noticed the way Zara moved through the house, the way she barely acknowledged the staff, and the small frown she made when she saw the maid cleaning near her. Armand's father later suggested to him that they should arrange small situations at home to see how Zara reacted when things were not perfect. It was not meant to embarrass her, but to understand her true nature. Armand agreed, feeling a little uncomfortable but trusting his parents' judgment. Over the next few days, small tests were set up. One day the family pretended that there was a small problem with the dinner arrangements. The table was not fully prepared and some dishes were missing. Zara's reaction was immediate. She looked annoyed and said she could not eat in such a disorderly setting. She suggested calling a restaurant instead. Armand noticed a flicker of disappointment in his mother's eyes. In contrast, Aisha quietly set things right, arranging the table and serving the dishes with a calm smile. Her effort went almost unnoticed by Zara, but Armand saw it. He admired her patience and willingness to help without complaint. Another time, small mix-up was arranged in the household. Some cleaning supplies were misplaced and a minor inconvenience occurred in the kitchen. Zara complained loudly about how inconvenient it was and seemed irritated that she had to step in at all. Aisha, on the other hand, calmly solved the issue and even offered to help with other tasks, never showing frustration. Her calm and gentle demeanor stood in sharp contrast to Zara's annoyance. Armand began to notice the differences more clearly. Zara seemed focused on comfort, appearances, and convenience. Aisha seemed focused on people, kindness, and doing the right thing. These small observations stayed in Armand's mind. He found himself looking at Aisha more often, noticing how she smiled quietly when someone thanked her, how she listened patiently when someone spoke, and how she always remained humble no matter the situation. Despite these observations, Armand still loved Zara. He told himself that everyone had flaws, and perhaps Zara's reactions were just temporary or situational. Yet, a small voice inside him told him to pay attention. He knew that sometimes love blinded people to reality. He did not want to ignore the truth for the sake of desire. Life in the household continued with this quiet tension. Zara visited frequently, always elegant and charming, but her true nature showed in small ways that the family could not ignore. Aisha continued her work silently, always helpful and never seeking praise. Armand began to appreciate her more and more, realizing that while Zara could charm many with her beauty and elegance, Aisha had a charm of a different kind, one that came from her heart and actions. One evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Armand stayed in the living room. Thinking about the events of the past few days, he reflected on Zara's behavior and Aisha's. He realized that beauty and elegance could hide a selfish heart, while simplicity and humility could conceal a treasure of kindness. He did not yet know how his feelings would change, but he felt a growing admiration and respect for Aisha in the days that followed. Armand's parents continued to watch Zara carefully. They noticed her reactions in different situations, how she spoke to staff, how she handled small problems, and how much she cared for others. Each observation reinforced their earlier concerns. Meanwhile, Armand could not help but notice Aisha more often, seeing how she cared for the family, often going out of her way to help without anyone asking. Her presence brought a quiet comfort to the house, something that Zara's elegance and charm could never provide. It was a gentle but important period of observation. The seeds of future events were quietly being sown. While Armand's heart was still tied to his fiancée, he could not ignore the growing realization that true character and kindness often lay hidden beneath simplicity. He began to understand that the right person for him might not be the one who dazzled everyone with beauty and charm, but the one who touched hearts with selflessness, humility, and integrity. Little did Armand know, the path of life was about to reveal truths that would change his heart and destiny forever. The lessons of patience, observation, and understanding were quietly unfolding, preparing him for a future where true love would not be defined by appearances, but by the strength and goodness of the heart. Days passed, and the tension in Armand's household quietly grew. His parents observed Zara more closely, noticing how she reacted in situations that required patience or humility. They realized that it was not enough to admire someone for elegance and charm. True character revealed itself in small, everyday actions. Armand, though still in love, could no longer ignore these signs. He started seeing Zara differently, noticing the little ways she complained, her subtle impatience, and the ease with which she dismissed people she considered below her social status. The family decided to arrange another situation to observe Zara. A small gathering was planned at the house, inviting close friends and family. Everything seemed normal on the surface, but subtle challenges were included to see how she would react. During the gathering, a small accident occurred in the kitchen. A pot spilled some soup, and the maid, Aisha, immediately rushed to clean it. Zara's reaction was immediate and visible. She frowned, said it was disgusting, and made a comment about how she would not eat if things were messy. Some guests noticed, while others did not. Armand, however, saw the difference in the way Aisha handled the situation. She did not complain, did not make a fuss, and cleaned everything quietly and efficiently. Her calm and thoughtful actions left a strong impression on him. Over the next few days, more small tests were arranged. One day, some of the household items were misplaced to see how Zara would handle inconvenience. Zara became visibly frustrated, raised her voice slightly, and suggested that someone else should handle it. She did not try to help or adjust. On the other hand, Aisha noticed the problem, quickly organized the items, and even went beyond what was required to ensure that everyone could continue their day comfortably. She never asked for thanks or attention. Armand noticed this difference and started thinking more deeply about the kind of person he truly needed in his life. Armand found himself paying more attention to Aisha, her kindness, Patience and humility were not loud or showy, but they touched him in a way that Zara's elegance never could. He started noticing how she remembered small details about people in the house, how she smiled when someone was sad, and how she quietly made sure everything ran smoothly. She seemed to have a natural understanding of people and their needs, a quality that Armand admired more than any wealth or beauty. One evening, a small crisis occurred. A storm had damaged part of the garden, and water had entered the house in one corner. The staff was panicked, unsure how to handle it quickly. Zara arrived and looked at the mess. She was shocked and upset, asking why this had happened and suggesting that someone should have prevented it. She did not try to help in any way. Aisha, on the other hand, took charge quietly. She guided the staff to move furniture, cleaned the water, and reassured everyone calmly. Her efficient and composed actions turned the situation around quickly. Armand could not help but be impressed by her presence of mind and her calmness under pressure. He realized that while Zara could make a perfect appearance, Aisha could handle reality with grace. The contrast between Zara and Aisha became more obvious over time. Zara seemed concerned only with herself, with appearances, and with comfort. Aisha focused on others, on helping and on solving problems without complaint. Armand began to feel a subtle shift in his emotions. He still loved Zara for her beauty and charm, but he felt a growing respect and admiration for Aisha that he could not ignore. Her quiet presence, her kindness, her ability to handle difficult situations, naturally drew him closer. Armand's parents also noticed the change in their son. They had hoped he would understand the importance of character before committing his life to someone. They did not push or force anything. Instead, they let life unfold naturally, allowing Armand to see the differences for himself. They knew that true understanding came from observation and experience, not from advice or warnings alone. One afternoon, a small misunderstanding was arranged to observe Zara's reaction. Some important documents were accidentally misplaced, and the household was in mild confusion. Zara's response was sharp and impatient. She blamed others and expressed frustration loudly, making everyone around her uncomfortable. Armand watched quietly, feeling a pang of disappointment. Meanwhile, Aisha immediately started looking for the documents, calming the staff, and offering solutions. Within a short time, she had resolved the issue with patience and care. Armand was amazed at her composure and effectiveness. The more Armand observed, the more he realized that appearances could be misleading. Zara's charm and elegance could hide selfishness and impatience, while Aisha's simplicity and humility concealed immense strength and kindness. He started paying more attention to how people treated those around them. Noticing that Aisha's respect for everyone and her gentle nature created a positive atmosphere wherever she went. Armand also began to notice how Aisha treated him personally. She never sought to impress him or gain attention, but she cared about his comfort, listened when he spoke, and offered thoughtful suggestions without being intrusive. Her small acts of kindness, like noticing when he was tired or helping him with minor tasks, touched him deeply. He began to question his previous feelings and whether his love for Zara was based on what was truly important in life. During this time, Zara's behavior continued to reveal her true nature. She complained about small inconveniences, criticized minor issues, and showed impatience whenever things were not perfect. Armand noticed that her charm faded quickly when situations became difficult, or when she had to engage with people she considered below her status. In contrast, Aisha's charm grew quietly. She remained patient, kind, and helpful in every situation, earning respect and admiration naturally. One evening, the family hosted a small dinner to celebrate a family achievement. Zara arrived in a beautiful gown, carrying herself with elegance. Armand was momentarily captivated by her appearance, but the evening quickly revealed her shortcomings. When a minor problem occurred with the serving of food, she reacted with visible annoyance, criticizing the staff and expressing frustration. Her behavior embarrassed some guests and left others whispering quietly. Aisha, meanwhile, quietly ensured that everything ran smoothly, serving food, helping guests, and solving the problem without anyone asking. Armand could not ignore the stark contrast between the two women. After the dinner, Armand took a quiet walk in the garden. Reflecting on everything he had observed, he realized that character, kindness, and humility were far more important than beauty, charm, or social status. He thought about the moments when Aisha had quietly helped others, solved problems, and created a positive atmosphere without seeking recognition. Her actions had touched him deeply, and he began to see her in a new light. He understood that true love and respect could not be based on appearances alone. The following days continued with small events and observations. Armand's feelings gradually shifted as he noticed more of Aisha's virtues. He found himself thinking about her kindness, her patience, and her ability to remain calm under pressure. He realized that he admired her not only for her actions, but for her heart, which was pure and selfless. Zara, on the other hand, continued to show impatience, selfishness, and concern only for appearances, further distancing herself from the qualities Armand truly valued. One day, a small emergency occurred when a child in the household fell ill. Everyone panicked, unsure of how to handle the situation. Zara was frightened and anxious, unable to act calmly. Aisha immediately took control, comforting the child, organizing the staff, and ensuring that the child received proper care. Her calmness, intelligence, and selflessness impressed Armand deeply. He realized that, in times of real challenge, Aisha's true qualities shone far brighter than Zara's elegance ever could. Armand began to understand that life was not about appearances or comfort. It was about character, integrity, and the ability to care for others. He felt a growing admiration and respect for Aisha, understanding that her humble and kind nature was what made her truly special. He started spending more time observing her, noticing how she treated everyone with respect, how her presence created a sense of calm and happiness in the house. As days turned into weeks, the contrast between Zara and Aisha became undeniable. Armand could no longer ignore the truth. Zara's behavior had revealed her selfishness, while Aisha's actions had shown her selflessness and integrity. Armand realized that his heart was slowly shifting. Recognizing the value of true character over superficial charm, he began to reflect on what he truly wanted in a partner. He wanted someone who could handle life's challenges with grace, someone who could care for others without seeking recognition, and someone whose heart was pure. In Aisha, he saw all these qualities, and he realized that his feelings for her were growing beyond admiration. He began to understand that destiny often worked in mysterious ways, and sometimes the person meant for you was the one who quietly touched your heart through actions rather than appearances. Armand's parents noticed the change in him. They knew that their subtle tests and observations had begun to work. They did not interfere, allowing Armand to reach his own conclusions. They watched with quiet satisfaction as he began to see the true value of character, humility, and kindness. The lessons of patience, observation, and understanding were unfolding naturally, preparing him for the events that would soon change his life forever. Life in the household continued, with Zara still visiting occasionally and Aisha quietly performing her duties. The contrast between the two women became more apparent with each passing day. Armand's feelings shifted gradually, his admiration for Aisha growing stronger. He began to understand that love was not about appearances, wealth, or charm, but about the qualities that made a person truly valuable in life. He realized that destiny often revealed itself slowly through small observations, quiet actions, and the understanding of what truly mattered. Armand's thoughts became heavier with each passing day. What once felt clear now felt confusing. He had imagined a future with Zara for a long time, yet reality was slowly rewriting that picture. He did not hate her, and he did not wish her harm. But he could no longer ignore the feeling that something important was missing. The more he observed her behavior, the more he realized that love built only on beauty and charm could not survive real life. One morning, Armand sat quietly in the living room while his parents discussed household matters. Zara was expected to visit later that day. The house felt calm, and Aisha moved around silently, preparing tea and making sure everything was in order. Armand noticed how she worked with focus and care, never rushing, never complaining. When she placed the cup of tea near him, she did so gently and stepped back without saying much. That small moment stayed with him longer than he expected. When Zara arrived later, the atmosphere changed. Her voice was louder, her movements sharper. She complained about the traffic, about the weather, and even about the furniture arrangement. Armand listened quietly, realizing how often she focused on discomfort and irritation. His parents exchanged subtle glances, saying nothing. They wanted Armand to see everything clearly on his own. That afternoon, an unexpected situation occurred. A distant relative arrived unannounced, bringing along a few children. The house was not prepared, and things became slightly chaotic. Zara looked visibly unhappy. She whispered to Armand that this was not the right time for guests, and that such surprises were embarrassing. She stayed seated, scrolling on her phone, avoiding interaction. Aisha, however, reacted differently. She immediately brought water for the guests, found snacks for the children, and tried to make them feel welcome. She spoke softly to the children, calming them and helping them settle down. The guests felt comfortable despite the sudden visit. Armand watched everything quietly. The contrast struck him deeply. One woman felt disturbed by inconvenience, while the other felt responsible for people's comfort. Later that evening, Armand found himself thinking about his childhood. He remembered how his mother had taught him that kindness during difficult moments revealed a person's true heart. Sitting alone in his room, he wondered whether he had been ignoring those lessons. He questioned whether he had confused attraction with compatibility. The thought unsettled him. Over the next few days, Armand began spending more time at home, observing without judgment. Zara continued to visit, and each time her behavior remained the same. She disliked interruptions, disliked disorder, and disliked anything that did not match her expectations. She spoke kindly when it suited her, and coldly when it did not. Armand noticed that her kindness had limits. Aisha's behavior never changed. Whether the day was easy or stressful, she remained calm and thoughtful. She helped everyone equally, never raising her voice, never showing frustration. When something went wrong, she focused on solutions instead of blame. Armand realized that her strength was quiet but steady. One evening, a serious issue arose. A small electrical fault caused part of the house to lose power. The staff panicked, and confusion spread quickly. Zara became anxious and irritated, asking why such things always happened, and demanding that it be fixed immediately. She refused to stay in the dark and complained loudly. Aisha acted without panic. She brought lamps, reassured everyone, and helped guide the staff until the issue was under control. She even checked on elderly members of the household to ensure they were comfortable. Her calm presence helped reduce fear and stress. Armand felt a deep sense of respect for her in that moment. He realized that in real life, moments like these mattered more than grand gestures. That night, Armand could not sleep. His thoughts were restless. He realized he had been ignoring his inner voice for too long. He thought about marriage, responsibility, and the kind of partner he truly needed. He imagined facing life's challenges with Zara and felt uncertain. Then he imagined facing those same challenges with someone like Aisha and felt a sense of peace. The realization scared him. He did not want to hurt anyone. He did not want to betray promises or emotions. But he also knew that living a lie would hurt everyone even more. He understood that honesty, though painful, was necessary. The next day, Armand decided to speak to his parents. He did not tell them everything, but he shared his confusion. His parents listened quietly without interrupting. When he finished, his mother gently told him that love was not about perfection, but about character. His father reminded him that marriage was a lifelong journey, not a temporary feeling. Their words did not push him in any direction, but they helped him think more clearly. After that conversation, Armand felt lighter. He understood that he needed to trust what he was seeing, not what he wished to see. He began observing Zara with honesty instead of hope, and the truth became clearer with each passing day. One afternoon, Zara made a comment about Aisha that disturbed Armand deeply. She spoke dismissively, suggesting that staff should know their place and not be noticed too much. Her words were not loud, but they were sharp. Armand felt something shift inside him. He realized that respect was not optional. It was essential. Anyone who looked down on others could never truly love equally. Later that same day, Armand saw Aisha helping a young helper who was struggling with work. She did not scold or judge. She guided patiently, teaching with kindness. That moment felt like a quiet answer to all of Armand's questions. Armand's feelings became clearer, though he kept them to himself. He did not act on impulse. He knew that big decisions required patience and responsibility. But deep inside, he had started accepting the truth. His heart was changing, and his understanding of love was maturing. Days passed, and Zara sensed a change in Armand. He was quieter, more distant. She assumed he was busy or stressed and did not reflect on her own behavior. Aisha, unaware of Armand's inner struggle, continued her work as always, sincere and steady. One evening, Armand sat alone in the garden, watching the sunset. Aisha passed by quietly, carrying tools after finishing her work. She greeted him respectfully and moved on. That simple exchange filled Armand with an unexpected warmth. There was no pressure, no expectation, just honesty and calm. In that moment, Armand understood something important. Love was not about being impressed. It was about feeling safe, understood, and respected. It was about growing together, not showing off together. And the person who gave him that feeling was not the one he had chosen first. He knew that difficult conversations lay ahead. Decisions would have consequences. But he also knew that ignoring the truth would be the biggest mistake of all. Life was gently guiding him toward clarity, even if the path was uncomfortable as the days continued. The distance between Zara and Armand quietly grew, while his respect for Aisha deepened naturally. The test that had begun as a simple observation was now turning into a life-changing realization. Destiny was slowly revealing itself, not through dramatic events, but through everyday moments, quiet actions, and honest reflection. Armand did not yet know how everything would unfold, but one thing was certain. He could no longer deny what his heart and mind had both begun to accept. The journey toward truth had begun, and there was no turning back. The days that followed felt heavier than before. Armand carried a quiet weight inside him, one that no one could see, but everyone could sense. He moved through the house with care, speaking less and thinking more. His heart was no longer confused, but his responsibility made every step slow and careful. He knew that truth demanded action, and action demanded courage. Zara continued visiting the house, unaware of how close everything was to changing. She noticed that Armand was not as attentive as before. He listened, but his mind was elsewhere. She spoke about plans, clothes, gatherings, and the wedding details, but Armand responded with short answers. At first, she thought it was stress. Later, she felt irritation growing inside her, though she never stopped to question her own behavior. One afternoon, Armand's parents invited Zara for a quiet tea. The atmosphere was polite but serious. Zara spoke confidently, sharing her ideas about future changes she wanted to make in the house. She talked about replacing staff, changing routines, and setting stricter rules. As she spoke, she did not notice the discomfort on the faces around her. Aisha served tea quietly and stepped away. She did not stay to listen. Her role was simple, and she respected boundaries. Armand watched her leave and felt a strange mix of calm and sadness. He knew that this conversation would soon affect everyone. After the tea, Armand asked Zara to stay back. His parents gave them space. The room felt silent, and the air felt heavy. Zara sensed something was wrong. She crossed her arms and asked what was going on. Armand spoke slowly. He did not accuse or raise his voice. He spoke about values, about respect, and about the kind of life he wanted to build. He said that marriage was not just about beauty or status, but about patience, kindness, and understanding. Zara listened, her expression changing from confusion to disbelief. She defended herself at first. She said she was misunderstood, that everyone had flaws, and that she deserved comfort and respect. Armand listened without interrupting. When she finished, he calmly told her that respect must be given before it is expected. He explained that he had seen how she treated people during difficult moments, and those moments mattered to him the most. Zara's tone changed. She became upset and emotional. She said she had never imagined being questioned like this. She accused Armand of changing suddenly and allowing others to influence him. Armand did not argue. He simply said that he had finally learned to see clearly. The conversation ended with silence. Zara left the house that day feeling hurt and angry. Armand stood alone for a long time after she left. Ending an engagement was not easy. He felt sadness, guilt, and relief all at once. But deep inside, he knew he had chosen honesty over comfort. The news spread quietly within the family. There was no drama, no public scene. Armand's parents supported his decision. They knew the pain would pass, but a wrong marriage would leave deeper wounds. They reminded him that choosing the right partner was one of life's most important decisions. Aisha noticed the change in the house. Zara stopped visiting, and the atmosphere became calmer. Still, Aisha did not ask questions or make assumptions. She focused on her work. Unaware of how closely her quiet presence had been tied to these changes, Armand found himself thinking about Aisha more often. But now his thoughts were careful. He did not allow himself to cross lines or act on emotion. He respected her position and her dignity. He also respected the time needed for healing. One evening, Kay sitting alone in the kitchen after finishing her work. She looked tired. Without thinking too much, he asked if everything was okay. She smiled politely and said she was fine. That simple exchange stayed with him. It reminded him of how genuine she always was. Days later, a situation arose that tested everyone again. A close family friend faced a sudden loss, and the house became a place of support. People came and went, emotions ran high, and arrangements needed to be made quickly. Aisha worked tirelessly, helping guests, comforting elders, and managing tasks without being asked. She never complained, even when exhaustion showed on her face. Armand watched her quietly. He realized that strength was not loud. It was steady. It showed up when needed and asked for nothing in return. His respect for her grew deeper, mixed now with a feeling he could no longer deny. One night, Armand spoke again with his parents. He shared his growing feelings, not as a sudden desire, but as a deep respect that had slowly turned into affection. His parents listened carefully. They reminded him to move with care, honesty, and respect. They told him that if feelings were true, they would survive patience. Armand agreed. He knew Aisha deserved dignity, not confusion. He also knew that society judged quickly and harshly. He wanted to do everything the right way, even if it took time. Aisha remained unaware of these conversations. She sensed that Armand was kinder and more thoughtful, but she did not imagine more than that. Her world was simple. She worked, supported her family from a distance, lived quietly with dignity. One afternoon, Armand saw Aisha helping an elderly neighbor outside the house. She carried groceries, listened patiently, and refused any praise. The scene felt ordinary, yet powerful. It confirmed everything Armand had been feeling. Later that evening, Armand found himself alone again, reflecting. He thought about how easily he had once been impressed by appearances. He thought about how life had gently taught him deeper lessons through everyday moments. He realized that destiny was not dramatic. It was patient. Zara tried contacting Armand once more, hoping to talk. He listened respectfully, but stood firm. He wished her well and hoped she would find happiness. Ending things with kindness mattered to him. He did not want bitterness to follow either of them. After that, a quiet peace settled in the house. There was no celebration, only calm acceptance. Armand felt lighter, though he knew the journey was not over. One evening, as Aisha prepared to leave for the day, Armand thanked her sincerely for her hard work and dedication. His words were respectful and genuine. Aisha was surprised but grateful. She nodded and wished him well before leaving. That moment was small, but meaningful. It marked a shift from silent observation to honest acknowledgement. Not of love yet, but of respect. Armand understood that the next steps would require even more care. Feelings alone were not enough. Timing, intention, and respect mattered just as much. As night fell, Armand stood by the window, looking at the quiet house. The engagement that once felt so certain was now a lesson from the past. In its place stood clarity, growth, and the possibility of a future built on truth. The path ahead was still uncertain, but it felt right. Armin knew that whatever came next, it would not be based on illusion. It would be built on values, patience, and genuine connection. And somewhere in that quiet house, without even realizing it, Aisha continued to live with the same kindness that had changed everything. Destiny was no longer rushing. It was waiting, ready to take its final shape. The days that followed were different from anything Armand had experienced before. There was no tension, no arguments, only a calm that allowed him to think clearly. After ending his engagement with Zara, life returned to a quieter rhythm. Giving him time to reflect on what really mattered, Armand began noticing Aisha in ways he had never allowed himself to before. He saw her patience, her kindness, and her dedication, not as duties but as choices she made every day. Every smile she shared, every gentle word she spoke, felt natural and sincere. He realized that while Zara had been dazzling, Aisha's presence was comforting. Her strength was not loud, but it had a depth that resonated with him. One evening, a small celebration was planned for the household. It was nothing grand, just a dinner to appreciate everyone's contributions. Aisha worked as usual, helping with preparations, arranging the dining area, and assisting in serving. Armand noticed her attention to detail and the way she made everything run smoothly without drawing attention to herself. During the event, guests complimented the organization and the warm atmosphere. Armand smiled quietly, knowing that much of it was Aisha's doing. Later that evening, Armand found himself alone with her for a moment. He thanked her sincerely for all she did, explaining that her efforts had not gone unnoticed. Aisha smiled, a little embarrassed, but grateful. They spoke casually about work, family, and small moments from the past. The conversation was light but meaningful. Armand felt a connection growing naturally, not rushed or forced. Over the next few weeks, Armand observed Aisha even more closely, not as an employer or an observer, but as someone beginning to understand the person she truly was. He saw how she treated neighbors with respect, how she comforted children when they were upset, and how she quietly encouraged the younger staff members. Every small action showed her integrity and kindness. And Armand found himself admiring her more deeply than he had ever admired anyone. Armand's parents noticed the change in him. They had seen him struggle and reflect for so long, and now they saw him moving forward with clarity. They did not intervene, allowing him to make his own decisions. They understood that real love was not about appearances or social status, but about shared values and mutual respect. They trusted that Armand would follow his heart wisely. One afternoon, a challenge arose that tested everyone once more. A distant cousin arrived unexpectedly with children in tow, and the household had to manage the sudden arrival. Zara would have likely complained, seeking comfort and avoidance. But this time, she was no longer present. Aisha stepped in effortlessly, calming the children, organizing the space, and helping the adults navigate the situation. Her calm presence made the chaos manageable, and Armand watched in admiration. Her quiet efficiency and natural care impressed him deeply. Reinforcing his growing feelings, later that day, Armand took a walk in the garden. Aisha was there, watering plants. He approached her cautiously, aware of the difference between admiration and affection. He wanted to speak, but he wanted it to be sincere and respectful. He began by thanking her again, mentioning how much he had noticed and appreciated her efforts. Aisha blushed slightly, offering a humble smile, and thanked him in return. The moment was simple, yet meaningful. Armand realized that love was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about trust, understanding, and shared values. He understood that Aisha's kindness and humility had drawn him closer without any effort or intention on her part. He felt a deep connection, one that was based on respect and admiration. Days turned into weeks, and Armand found himself wanting to spend more time with Aisha, not as a superior or employer, but as someone who genuinely cared for her. He engaged in conversations, asked her opinion on small matters, and began to include her in decisions within the household. Aisha, in turn, remained humble and attentive, unaware of the impact she had on Armand's heart. She continued her work as always, never seeking recognition or favor. One evening, family gathered to celebrate a small milestone. Everyone was happy and relaxed. Armand noticed Aisha working quietly, helping the staff and making sure everyone was comfortable. During a moment of pause, he approached her and asked if she would join the family for the dinner. She hesitated, unsure of her place, but he assured her it was because he valued her presence. She smiled, accepting the invitation, and for the first time, she sat among the family as more than just a maid. The dinner was lively and warm. Aisha's calm presence made the atmosphere comfortable for everyone. Guests complimented the harmony in the house, not knowing that much of it was because of her influence. Armand felt a growing certainty in his heart. He realized that he wanted to build a life with someone like her, someone whose values aligned with his own. In the following days, Armand decided to express his feelings honestly. He knew it was delicate, that Aisha deserved respect and clarity. One quiet evening, he asked her to walk with him in the garden. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the trees. He spoke carefully, telling her how much he had come to admire her, not just for her actions, but for the person she was inside. He explained that he respected her, valued her, and wished to know if she could consider a future with him. Aisha listened quietly, her eyes wide with surprise. She had never imagined such a conversation. Her mind raced, but she felt sincerity in Armand's words. She realized that his admiration and respect were genuine. After a moment of silence, she smiled softly, expressing her own feelings of trust and appreciation. She agreed to explore a future together, cautiously but with hope. The weeks that followed were gentle and filled with learning. Armand and Aisha spent time understanding each other more deeply. They shared thoughts, dreams, and small moments, building trust and connection. Their relationship grew naturally, based on respect, shared values, and mutual care. There were no dramatic declarations or rushed decisions, only a steady and sincere growth of love. Armand's parents were pleased. They saw their son happy and grounded, building a connection with someone who truly matched his heart. They offered guidance when needed, but allowed the relationship to develop at its own pace. The household, once tense with expectations, now felt harmonious and warm. One day, Armand officially asked for Aisha's hand in marriage, following tradition but with sincerity and respect. She accepted, not with hesitation, but with a quiet happiness that reflected her humility and integrity. Their union was celebrated, with family, not for extravagance, but for love, respect, and the values that had brought them together. The wedding day was beautiful, simple, and meaningful. There were smiles, laughter, and tears of happiness. Aisha moved gracefully, not seeking attention, but radiating warmth. Armand stood beside her, grateful for the journey that had led him to her. He knew that his life had changed, not because of wealth, beauty, or charm, but because of character, kindness, and destiny's quiet guidance. In the months that followed, Armand and Aisha built a life together filled with understanding and respect. They faced challenges, as every life does, but they faced them as partners, supporting each other with patience and care. Their home became a place of warmth and happiness, a reflection of the values that had brought them together. Armand often thought back to the days when he had been engaged to Zara. He did not regret the lessons learned. It taught him to look beyond appearances, to value character, and to trust his heart. He realized that true destiny did not rush. It revealed itself through patience, observation, and understanding. Aisha continued her work with humility, never forgetting her roots, never seeking fame or recognition. Her life, once simple, had become intertwined with Armand's, and together they built a future grounded in honesty, respect, and love. The story of Armand and Aisha became one of quiet inspiration. It showed that love is not about the dazzling or the grand, but about the sincere, the kind, and the genuine. It proved that destiny often chooses the heart, not appearances, and that happiness grows where respect and understanding are nurtured. Years later, when they looked back, They remembered the small moments that had changed everything, the quiet actions, the patient guidance, the unnoticed kindness. They realized that their love had not been sudden, but carefully built over time, and that was what made it strong and lasting. Armin and Aisha's life together was a testament to the power of patience, observation, and character. Their journey showed that the right person often appears in ways that are quiet, humble, and true. And when one recognizes such a person, life's challenges become easier, love becomes deeper, and destiny fulfills itself in the most meaningful way.